Hallo und herzlich willkommen bei whisky.de, dem Treffpunkt feiner Geister. Und heute bin ich in dem Dörfchen Nähen und das liegt an der Nordküste der Speyside. Ein wunderschöner Tag, hinter mir wahnsinnig schöne Wellen und ein super feiner Sand, ein schöner Sandstrand. Also ich könnte mir vorstellen, im Sommer, in dem einen Tag Sommer, den die Schotten haben, ist das wirklich eine tolle Gegend hier. Also könnte man auch schön baden gehen, wenn es richtig heiß ist. Aber heute soll es darum nicht gehen. Nähen war früher ein Hafen und der war ein besonderer Hafen, denn hier wurde königlicher Whisky versendet. Ja, ich spreche über die Royal Brackla Destillerie. Und da gehen wir jetzt gleich hin und schauen uns mal an. Die Geschichte der Brackla Destillerie fängt an mit einem 14, 15 Jahre alten Jungen, der mit dem Namen William Fraser. Und er ist mit 14, 15 Jahren in die Armee gegangen. Ja, damals war das noch üblich und ja, legal. Und er ist, wie es halt damals so war, mit dem Empire über See ist er ja in den Krieg gezogen. Und er hatte ja sehr viel Kriegserfahrung und er hatte 30 Jahre treuen Dienst in der Armee geleistet, sogar über 30 Jahre, und ist dann ja in den Rängen auch aufgestiegen, ist dann irgendwann zum Captain aufgestiegen, was bei uns, glaube ich, soweit wie ich denke, müsste das so Hauptmann sein. Ja, und damals als Captain hat man sehr gut Geld verdient. Also er hatte eine gute Menge Geld, wurde dann öfters verwundet und wurde dann versetzt ins schottische Hochland, Highland, Veteranenbataillon, also diejenigen, die verletzt sind und nicht mehr direkt in den Krieg müssen. Und er hat sich gedacht, was mache ich jetzt mit meinem Geld? Und ist dann hier ins Cawdor Estate gegangen und hat mit den lokalen Farmern geredet und hat gesagt, ich will eine Whiskybrennerei aufmachen. Das war im Jahre 1812, wo er die Whiskybrennerei gegründet hat. Und wer sich zurückerinnern kann, Highlands und Brennen und Alkohol, das war damals illegal. Das stimmt nicht so ganz. Es war illegal zu brennen ohne Lizenz. Und diese Lizenz war damals so teuer, dass es im Grunde niemand gemacht hat, außer William Fraser. Und der hat diese Lizenz sich geholt und es war auch wirklich schwierig für ihn. Er konnte es irgendwie nicht richtig verkaufen, hat Verluste gemacht und seine Mitgründer, die sind dann irgendwann ausgestiegen, er hat sie ausbezahlt und hat 2500 Pfund Verluste gemacht. Und er hat damals auch schon im Commissioner geschrieben, das ist richtig beschissenes Gesetz und er kann seinen Whisky in einem Umkreis von 120 Meilen nicht verkaufen, weil so viel illegaler Whisky unterwegs ist, der viel billiger ist als sein teurer, wofür er ja Steuern bezahlen muss, dass er einfach keine Chance hat im Markt. Und ja, es hat sich nicht so schnell was getan. Wir wissen alle, 1823 hat sich dann eben das Gesetz geändert und das Brennen wurde angenehm teuer, dass sich alle registriert haben. Deswegen sind ja alle Brennereien so um 1824, 25 gegründet worden, offiziell. Ja, und er hat deswegen seinen Whisky verschiffen müssen. Das Schöne war natürlich, er hatte legalen Whisky und deswegen war der Whisky besser verschiffbar. Er hat ihn nach Aberdeen geschickt, er hat ihn nach Glasgow geschickt, wo natürlich alle drauf geschaut haben, oh, wurde da auch Steuern bezahlt, und er hat ihn auch nach London verschickt. Und das kam ihm natürlich ein Stückchen zugute, denn der König konnte schlecht illegalen Whisky trinken und der Whisky in den Highlands war besser. Also hat der König sehr viel von der Brackla Destillerie an Whisky genossen. Das ging dann so weit, dass der König diesen Whisky so toll fand und das erste Royal Warrant, also das erste Siegel, an eine Brennerei gegeben hat, eben die Brackla Brennerei. Und das war 1833 bei König William IV. Und von da an durfte sich die Brennerei nennen Royal Brackla. Und der König hat gesagt, this is my own whisky. Und das ist immer noch das Motto, the King's own whisky. Ja. Und das ging dann weiter. 1838 wurde dann das Royal Warrant wegen einer neuen Königin, Königin Victoria, erneuert. Und da stand dann auch schon drauf Robert Fraser, sein Sohn. Also sein Sohn hat das Ganze noch übernommen. Das ging dann Jahre so weiter. Die Brennerei wurde öfters verkauft, auch mal geschlossen, wieder aufgebaut und erneuert und alles. Während dem Krieg gab es sogar auch noch eine kleine Air Force Base, die hier in der Nähe war. Und da haben dann die Piloten hier auch noch übernachten können oder das Personal übernachten können. Also sie hatten auch noch im Krieg auch noch etwas zu tun. Und ja, in der näheren Vergangenheit war die Brennerei bei Diageo. Aber Diageo war zu groß und die SWA hat sie als Monopol angesehen. Also mussten sie ja einen Teil verkaufen, wurde Diageo gezwungen zu verkaufen. Und deswegen hat sie die Duers-Familie, wo die Royal Brackla dazugehören, haben sie verkauft an Bacardi, bei denen sie immer noch sind heutzutage. Wir haben natürlich wie immer die Zutaten, die am Anfang der Produktion stehen. Die Brennerei verwendet nur nicht rauchiges Malz und die werden in dieser schönen alten Mühle mit 2 Rollen grob klein geschrotet. Aber das ist gar nicht so einfach. Es gibt verschiedene Qualitäten an Malz und auch verschiedene Malzsorten, also verschiedene Getreidesorten, die dann verschieden gemälzt wurden. Es gibt also immer schon verschiedene Variationen. Die Brennerei versucht natürlich immer wieder das Gleiche zu bekommen, damit man einen sehr gleichen, kontinuierlichen Prozess hat. Aber manchmal über die Saison werden auch verschiedene Arten umgestellt. Es gibt Concerto, es gibt Sassy, es gibt Laureate. Und deswegen muss man hin und wieder die Malzmühle auch einstellen. Und wie man die Malzmühle einstellt, ist, man hat ein gewisses Rezept. Und zwar besteht dieses Rezept aus 3 Zutaten. Nachdem Malz geschrotet wurde, gibt es die Spelze, dann gibt es den Grieß und es gibt das Mehl. Also gibt verschiedene Wörter dafür. Also für Spelze kann man auch Hüllen sagen. Also es ist die Hülle des Getreides. Dann der Grieß sind so große Klumpen und Mehl ist einfach alles komplett klein gemahlen. Das kennt man aus der Küche. Und wie man das Ganze macht, ist, man nimmt eine genaue Menge, meist 100 Gramm, wiegt sie genau ab und bringt sie in diese Box hier ein. Hier oben, hier sieht man, liegt jetzt schon Spelze drin. Da sind dann verschiedene Gitter drin, die verschiedene Sachen durchlassen. Schließt die Box und fängt an zu schütteln. Wenn man dann genug geschüttelt hat, sieht man, die Spelze ist im obersten, im mittleren Teil ist dann der Grieß oder die Klumpen und unten ist dann das Mehl. Und diese einzelnen Teile wiegt man dann und schaut, okay, was haben wir, wie viel Anteile von was haben wir, und das vergleicht man mit dem, was man immer haben will, und je nachdem muss man dann die verschiedenen Stufen bei der Mühle etwas enger oder etwas weiter stellen. Wenn man zu viel Mehl hat, verklebt alles. Wenn man es nicht fein genug macht, dann kriegt man nicht genügend raus. Also es ist so ein genauer Maximumpunkt, den man dort versucht zu erreichen, um in der Maishstand genügend rauszuholen. Hier bei der Brennerei wird 13 Tonnen Malz geschrotet mit einer Waage, und dann geht es weiter Richtung Mashing. Das nun geschrotete Malz wird mit frischem Quellwasser der Kersach Springs vermengt. Sie hatten gerade ein bisschen Probleme mit dem Rohr, das das Wasser leitet, und sie haben sogar eine zweite Quelle, die Airfield Spring. Das ist relativ nah, etwas näher am Wasser, aber es ist schön, noch so eine zweite Quelle zu haben. Früher hatten sie sicher das Wasser aus dem Cawdor Burn genommen, aber das wird heutzutage nur noch für Prozesswasser verwendet. Wäre wahrscheinlich auch gut genug, aber es ist üblich, für Sicherheit und für Qualitätskontrolle ist es besser, eine unterirdische Quelle zu nehmen. Gut, dann reden wir ein bisschen über die Mash-Tun. Die Mash-Tun ist eine große Stainless Steel Lauder-Tun, also sie ist sehr modern, sehr effizient, wird mit 13 Tonnen Malz befüllt. Dann einmal das erste Wasser, das Sparging, also das erste Mashing mit 64,5, also ein bisschen niedriger als üblich. Und dann haben sie das zweite Wasser ist es gibt kein zweites und drittes Wasser, sondern es gibt ein kontinuierliches Wasser. Sie fangen mit 75 Grad an und gehen mit der Temperatur des Wassers immer ganz leicht hoch und besprinkeln den ganzen Mash und lösen so alles. Aber da ist natürlich vom zweiten Besprinkeln, weil das so kontinuierlich mit über 100.000 Litern, ist es natürlich so, dass Sie an irgendeinem Punkt müssen Sie sagen, okay, da geht es nicht mehr, da ist zu wenig Zucker drin und das geht dann natürlich ins Recycling, so wie man es kennt. Ja. Die Mash-Tun mit 59.000 Litern befüllt genau ein Washbag. Die Brennerei hat 8 Washbags, 6 sind hölzerne, 2 aus rostfreiem Stahl, die stehen vor der Tür, um ja, die Produktionsmenge zu erhöhen. Sie hat eine Fermentationsdauer von 70 Stunden und wir kommen bei ungefähr 8% raus. 70 Stunden ist schon relativ lang und man hat so, ja, Geschmäcker gehen gerade so aus diesem erdigen, malzigen, grasigen raus und kommen gerade so bei dem Fruchtigen an. Hängt natürlich auch ein bisschen von der Hefe ab. Also Sie schauen, dass Sie sagen, Sie wollen fruchtig, clean, leicht wollen Sie sein. Also Sie wollen eher so ein leichter, fruchtiges Wort haben. Was ich auch noch sehr interessant finde ist, normalerweise ist es immer, ja, Oregon Pine, Douglas Fir, das ist der gleiche Baum. Hier nicht. Sie haben die Siberian Larch, also die sibirische Lärche. Aber keine Angst, der wird jetzt nicht irgendwo vom anderen Ende der Welt, von Sibirien hierher gefahren, sondern die sibirische Lärche wächst auch in Schottland. Das sind einheimische Bäume. Aber das Besondere an eben der Oregon Pine und der Siberian Larch ist, sie sind sehr, sehr gerade wachsende Bäume, sehr, sehr dichtes Holz und deswegen genau für die Herstellung, für diese riesigen Tonnen sind dafür bestens geeignet. Ich bin mal wieder im Herzen der Brennerei und das ist echt ein wunderschöner Ausblick. Man hat ein tolles Brennhaus mit 4 schönen Stills und im Hintergrund, das ist der Teich für das Prozesswasser. Das heißt, der Teich ist immer ein bisschen wärmer und diesen warmen Teich mögen die Enten immer. Das heißt, man hat immer einen schönen Ausblick und immer sind Enten da, die einem Gesellschaft leisten, wenn man hier an Whisky brennen ist. Sehr, sehr interessant. Wir haben sehr große Stills mit 20.000 Liter Volumen. Die Spirit Stills, die Wash Stills werden mit fast 20.000 Litern befüllt. Das heißt, das ist ungefähr, ja, 2/3 es ist 1/3 eines Washbags. Das heißt, man befüllt ein Washbag, befüllt 2 Washstills und dann bleibt noch ein Drittel übrig und beim nächsten Mal ist es dann eben andersrum. Das heißt, man hat immer noch ein bisschen Nachfermentation, also wird es immer noch ein leichtes Stückchen fruchtiger, wenn man nach verschiedenen Batches. Worauf das natürlich ankommt, ist bei den Spirit Stills. Die Form der Spirit Stills ist erstmal sehr groß, unten würde ich sagen schon ein bisschen weit, aber geht dann doch oben etwas schlanker zusammen und ist relativ hoch. Und worauf man auch immer achten muss, ist, wie ist der Linearm, also der Hals der Brennblase oder der Schwanenhals heißt, glaube ich, auf Deutsch. Wie ist der geformt? Und der steigt ein leicht an. Das heißt, die Brennblase ist bedeutend höher, als man denkt. Denn alles, was im Linearm kondensiert, läuft zurück in den Pot. Das heißt, wir haben hier doch schon sehr viel Kupferkontakt und das ist das, worauf die Leute achten. Also sie haben sich gesagt, okay, wir haben sehr, sehr gerade Brennblasen, was eigentlich zu weniger Reflux bedeutet, aber sie haben geschaut, dass sie mit den steigenden Linearm genügend Kupferkontakt haben, um doch einen relativ leichten Highland Malt rauszubekommen. Also das ist das, was man hier anschaut. Man will schon eine gewisse Fruchtigkeit, man will ihn ein wenig grasig haben und man will ihn schön leicht und angenehm haben. Das ist das, worauf man hier bei der Brennerei darauf achtet, was man brennt. Die Brennerei hat leider keine aktiven Lagerhäuser mehr auf ihrem Grund. Wenn man vorbeifährt und dann sieht man die Brennerei, sieht man, da sind eine ganze Menge Lagerhäuser, die gehören aber nicht zur Brennerei. Und es gibt auch noch ein paar alte Lagerhäuser, die zur Brennerei gehören, aber die sind in so schlechten Zustand, dass sie nicht verwendet werden. Das sind alte Dunnage Warehouses. Wäre sehr schön, wenn man dort ein bisschen was lagern würde oder könnte für den Single Malt, aber bis jetzt ist es noch Company Policy, dass alles mit dem Tanker nach Glasgow verladen wird und dort dann in Fässer kommt, um den Royal Brackla Single Malt zu machen. Aber der Großteil kommt noch in die Blendindustrie. Also hier die Royal Brackla Destillerie ist ein Zugpferd für ihren Maltanteil in den Blends. Hinter mir ist übrigens, das ist noch relativ historisch, der Vatting Tank, also wo man alle Fässer reingeschüttet hat und sie dann vermischt hat, um die richtige Mischung zu bekommen. Also der Master Blender hätte das dann überwacht und da steht auch noch sehr schön der Slogan drauf: The King's Own Whiskey. Ja, und jetzt probieren wir einmal den Single Malt von Royal Brackla. Ja, das war's mit der Produktion und jetzt geht's weiter mit einem kleinen Tasting und Interview. So I'm sitting here with Matthew Cawdor.
Cawdor, yeah, perfect.
And you've been now for 15 years within the whiskey industry.
Yeah.
5 years with Doers.
Yep.
As a, what is it, global brand ambassador?
Yeah, yes? So well, three years now as global ambassador. And before that, I think when we first met, I was the brand homes ambassador. So looking after special visits to the distillery. So got a race since last time, yeah, bonus.
So yeah, if you've recognized him, he was also in the Aberfeldy video, which belongs to also the Doers.
Same group, yeah, of course.
Yeah. So, nice bottles.
Lovely
bottles. Can you tell us what we're having today?
So today we're going to be looking at the wonderful new range of Royal Brackla. I say new, Bacardi is a company. We initially launched our Royal Brackla range at the end of 2014, beginning of 2015, but we've had a bit of a restaging of the Royal Brackla range, which we launched in December 2020. So relatively new, but still, our wonderful new range.
So what did change?
Big change for us. You know, when we first launched, I think we were learning how best to work with Royal Brackla as a single malt in its own right. You know, historically it's been used a lot in blends for us, and whichever company owned it. For us, though, we've realised that it's this character we want to celebrate, and it has this lovely kind of summer breeze in a glass. So I think allowing a little bit more of a lift in that character and really exploring sherry casks a bit more. You know, we say sherry casks really are our finishing touch for the Royal Brackla range. The original range, everything for that initial maturation was a combination of casks. So we had some first fill bourbon, we had some first fill sherry, we had some refill casks, and we had some re-char casks. We took that combination of casks and we finished everything, the 12, the 16, the 21, in first fill Oloroso sherry. Now with the range, you're seeing we've gone from 40% ABV, we're up to 46% ABV. We previously weren't natural colour. Now the entire range of Royal Brackla is natural colour, and as well we're non-chill filtered, so we get those much bigger rich fatty acids, esters in, a little bit of a richer mouthfeel.
So you kind of went from like mainstream beginner with colouring to really a malt head expert thing.
I think so. You know, I think it really is this lovely spirit, this lovely character that deserved to be shown off in a little bit more of a traditional bottling kind of style.
Okay, yeah, very nice. So, what's the first one we're going to have?
I think it makes sense to start with the 12 as well. So let's start with that 12, the classic. Now, we've got these lovely bottles up here, but in true fashion, here's some I prepared earlier, right? So we've got some open, ready for sampling. So straight away, as I've said here, it is natural colour. And looking at this bottle, you can see there a lovely dark rich colour. Initial maturation for us here is just ex-bourbon cask, almost all refill casks as well.
Okay.
I think, again, we have a wonderful malt master in Stephanie McLeod. She's one of the most award-winning whiskey makers in the world now. Why people give Stephanie awards, you know, why she wins all these big awards, is because of her ability to create balance within a whiskey. And I think what we celebrate with Stephanie's style of whiskey making is showing off that distillery character, that distillery DNA. It would be very easy to take that matured spirit, put it in a big first fill sherry cask for full maturation. It will taste good, but you would lose a lot of the more nuance, a lot of the more kind of subtle notes of that distillery character. So here, initial maturation for that 12 years, say predominantly in the ex-bourbon refill casks, it really allows the distillery character to age through, and then we're finishing it for about 6 months in the first fill Oloroso sherry. So again, if you go in with the nose there, Wow, right. Any initial thoughts for yourself here?
Yeah, it is a bit, you have a bit of that freshness, as you said, freshness in the glass.
Definitely.
And, but still, yeah, a dominant Oloroso sherry note. Yeah. And yeah, it doesn't lose the nuance. It is a nice sherry whiskey.
Yep.
Doesn't lose the nuance. But do you call yourself a space cider or a Highland?
A Highland, very much a Highland. I know you're saying it's, this lovely, fruity, fresh note. I think a lot of people would think that's fairly typical of the Highlands, but of the Speyside, sorry, but we are just over the line, classified as a Highland whiskey here.
Oh, you just...
so we're a little bit over, just outside of Speyside.
It's like your river is the was it Cawdor burn? Or?
Yeah, so exactly. So our water source, for our cooling pond, Cawdor burn.
So the Cawdor burn doesn't go into the Spey?
I don't think so. I need to look at a map for that one, but I don't believe so.
Yeah, but it's lovely. It's as you said, it's a balanced one. You have a bit of that vanilla caramel, just lightly.
Yep.
A lot of dried fruits and a lovely sherry character.
For me, it is everything in perfect balance. You've mentioned a lot of different flavor notes there. Some obviously from the ex-bourbon influence. Those lovely vanillas. I think a lot of that rich kind of ripe fruitiness comes through from that Royal Brackla character. Stephanie, our malt master, she says, Brackla is like a summer breeze in a glass.
I still can't really pin down what the freshness is. Like give it a name. Is it lime? Is it a peppermint?
For
is
me,
it red?
For me,
I don't know.
Lovely fresh fruits, I think. But as you say, obviously that caramel coming through, and alongside those fresh fruits, we've got the typical kind of dried fruits you'd expect coming from Oloroso sherry, and that little bit of cinnamon. There's that kind of warming spice that you'd expect from Oloroso as well. So for me, it's this perfectly balanced, rounded Highland whiskey.
Yeah. Slàinte.
Cheers, slàinte. Prost. And again, I think with that 46% non-chill filtered, the way that the whiskey coats the palate, right, it is just such a wonderfully round and rich mouthfeel. What do you think to that?
Did you say 46 or 48?
46, 46 for us.
Carries a good amount of volume.
Well, definitely for that as well.
It has that, okay, it has that obviously that cherry character. I have a good amount of that Oloroso nuttiness. Feels a little bit even crispy, like roasted almonds or roasted nuts or something like that. Combined with a nice sweetness. Vanilla caramel, I would say more caramel, more of that, or toffee or something like that.
100%.
But the nuttiness of the Oloroso comes through really nice.
I think there was that nuttiness and to say that kind of cinnamon spice for me. It's quite a warming, quite a a rich whiskey in that way. But not a bad place to start, right?
It works well. I think Royal Brackla, as it was used or is used a lot in blends, is a bit underappreciated. As it's a bit of a hidden gem. You don't have a visitor center.
Not yet. If the fans watching this drink a few more bottles of Royal Brackla, who knows?
Who knows?
Maybe we can get that visitor center open.
Yeah, it would be a nice thing. We've been to Nähe, and it's a lovely place, and it was a lovely restaurant, and we had really lovely sands, and the area is quite nice.
Yeah, I think this part of Scotland is a hidden gem, in its own right. But I totally agree with the whiskey. I think with its long and rich history with blended whiskies, we haven't seen much of it as a single malt yet. But I think now, people who finally are getting to appreciate it as a single malt.
Just need a bit of better connection to Inverness, probably.
That's true. I
think it has one to Frankfurt, but I'm not quite sure.
So, as I say, for me, the new range, it really is an exploration now of sherry cask finishing. So, that 12-year-old starting with the Oloroso, we're going to see a slight change as we start to now move through the range as well.
Yeah, I think with the changes, 46, unchill filtered, no colored, you really took a step into the direction that you recognize, because it's now a proper whiskey that is not just somewhere on the shelf, but it's like it has a good, decent chance to stand up to its brothers that have been a bit more well established.
Yeah.
Speaking of well established, I mean, you are like one of the oldest
one of the oldest legally founded distilleries in Scotland. And you know, I think
I mean that gives you. I mean, everybody else is like, okay, we have the first paper is from 1824 or 5 or something like that, and you have like, okay, we have 1812 aboard.
1812,
yeah. That is so cool. I mean, how was that possible? I mean, you had to pay taxes, but everybody said it's where the taxman couldn't go, you couldn't still distill. So did the taxman really come to the distillery?
Yeah, 100% as well. You know, I think there's so many misconceptions because that year of 1824 is when so many distilleries began in the Highlands of Scotland, obviously with that change in Excise Act in 1823. So I think we've just not been as not talked about it as much as well, but you know, you start to see taxes in Scotland from the mid-1600s on whiskey, so it's been obviously taxed for a long time, which meant there was a legal license obviously for the taxation as well. So, but it just wasn't as common. And you know, you mentioned there about it being a bit more of a prestigious way of bottling the whiskey now. I think we have one of the most prestigious whiskies in Scotland here with such a rich history. As you say, we started as Brackla Distillery, but within a few years we became Royal Brackla Distillery, the first of only 3 distilleries in history to get the right to use that word royal in their distillery name, along with the royal warrant.
Yeah. I mean, the royal warrant, is that now because the Queen died? So I think you have to renew it.
We do.
Is that like a really? I mean, is she already dead a year, or is she?
Must be thereabouts. Yeah. So it's.
So is time running out for you? Or do you have that under control?
I believe we do have a few years of a sort of grace period, a period where you know, because we had our royal warrant renewed not that long before the Queen sadly passed away, it means that there's a grace period of a few years. To be honest, it's quite an unusual situation. Nobody living in these jobs now looking after royal warrants has been in the situation where the reigning monarch has passed, giving way to another monarch. So it's a bit of a learning for us all. It's a bit of an interesting time. But
I think with the late Queen, we were a bit what do you call it, spoiled, because she lived very, very long, and she reigned very, very, very long. So this whole renewing the warrant and all of that kind of bureaucracy behind that didn't happen to all of all of the
uncharted territory for us now.
It happened. It didn't happen for such a long time, so nobody knows. Like, oh, okay, Queen's dead.
Fingers crossed. Charles enjoys our whiskey, so it's that'd be great.
Yeah, I think you'll get it. But the thing is, it's really new territory, as you said.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, you know, as a
everybody
company,
felt like she would go on forever.
I would say, as a company, we now have the longest continuously held royal warrant in the history of Scotch whisky. So it has been re-granted by every monarch since Queen Victoria. So fingers crossed, as I say, Charles is a fan.
Yeah, he likes his whiskey. So what's up next? It's a bit strange here when you look at it.
So you're not the first person to say this. And you know, next up we have the wonderful Royal Brackla 18. Now, if I was forced to pick a favourite in the range, a personal favourite, this is probably it for me.
Okay.
And you know, I think you'll have a lot of whiskey fans looking at a range and thinking, okay, you've got quite a dark 12-year-old there. Then a really light 18, quite unusual to have your older expression lighter in colour than your younger expression, and then into a nice dark and rounded 21. A big part of that is to do with the sherry casks, which we're using here. So Palo Cortado. Now, as I mentioned, the original Royal Brackla range for us was a 12-year-old, a 16, and a 21.
Okay.
And the whole of the original range was that combination of casks for kind of initial maturation and then finishing in first fill Oloroso. Now what Stephanie wants to do is kind of explore sherry casks. So we've started, again, very familiar territory with the 12 and that lovely Oloroso finish. Now we wanted to try something a bit more experimental. And I would say it's becoming, I think, a much more popular finishing cask now. We are starting to see a few more distilleries using it. But Palo Cortado is one of the kind of rarer sherries in the sherry world. And the reason for that is it's quite unusual. It is seen as almost a mistake within the world of sherry. And again, at your bodegas, again, as they're producing the sherries, it's almost this mistake where as they're producing a sherry that has a biological aging, where you kind of allow this layer of yeast called flor to kind of grow within the sherry, there's something happens in the warehouse, maybe a temperature fluctuation or something, where it starts off with this flor, this layer of yeast, and then suddenly there's a change takes place where the yeast dies away. And then you have an oxidative aging process, so more similar to what we'd expect with Oloroso or PX. So I think what we're more used to. So, you know, more like, again, those biological agings are like your Finos and Amontillados as well. So it makes it almost a mistake.
So it's a mistake to make it Fino.
Yeah, almost exactly, that kind of idea, you know, it's where you end up with this, as I say, it's a really interesting, I think, from a flavour perspective, a really interesting sherry. You have these lovely kind of, again, if you have a nose here, you'll see a lot of that Palo Cortado kind of notes reflected in the character here. You've got these lovely kind of top-end citrus notes for me. But alongside that, there's this kind of interesting, funky, earthy note, you know, kind of tobacco leaves, or kind of almost a leathery kind of note in there as well. So it's a funky note. I don't know how better to describe it. Do you know what I mean?
It's a strange combination between a bit of a, like, not fresh, but I would say tropical fruit.
Yeah.
Not too much like melon, but more like mango or something, I don't know. Feels a bit banana, something creamy.
As you say, tropical, I think, is the word.
Yeah, and then you have, as you said, the other side of the coin with the earthy, tobacco, hefty. So that is a strange combination.
It's a very interesting balance. Now, we were joking about this earlier, obviously we were filming outside today, and we always joke, you know, that there are 2 seasons in Scotland. There is winter in July, and occasionally in July we have this day that we call summer. You might have heard of it, okay? So I can imagine on that rare summer's day that we have in Scotland, this is the perfect whiskey to have, right? It's
whiskey for that one day.
If there is a summer whiskey, this is it. You know, as you say, it's that lovely kind of fresh tropical side of Royal Brackla.
But it's strange that it combines with that hefty volume then.
I think it works, you know, very well. At 46% again, natural colour, non-chill filtered. I think it's a great way to show off this prestigious whiskey. Again, I think it really holds its own as that wonderful mouthfeel at that 46% as well. But everything you've said there, it is light, it is fresh, it is summery. As I say, it's that interesting combination. Lovely top-end citrus notes, really kind of funky, earthy, kind of grounding notes in the finish there.
You have that tropical banana, mango, nice in there. Good amount of sweetness, I would say. Even maybe a honey note or something, I don't know.
Yeah, quite sweetness.
And what I want to say, but the earthy, I found it more like a spicy note in there.
Okay, yeah.
So,
but kind of like a wood spice, or
I don't know, or like a little bit of a white pepper or something like that, or also a bit of a oaky note. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I think, you know, we've mentioned the word spice, I guess, with the 12, but as I say, if that was more of a, as you say, cinnamon spice, that was more that kind of warming, rich, rounded spice. Yeah, this was as you say, kind of peppery, kind of woody. Is that?
Yeah, this was more like Christmas spices. And this was more, I don't know, like curry. I don't know.
But yeah, peppery note, I think is.
Peppery notes, yeah. Curry is not that precise, I would say.
But I think quite a different whiskey from what we've seen before from Royal Brackla. I think this is a real one for the geeks, you know, looking for something different, something special. I would highly recommend giving this one a try.
This is a very interesting combination. And really, I have much respect for whiskey creation teams or master blenders or something, because blending whiskeys together to get a balance where you don't have something that just sticks out like a sore thumb is difficult. Everybody can do, I think everybody can do a whiskey where you just go, cherry bomb. Yeah. I think that is not that difficult.
And it's going to taste good, right? The reason why a lot of people love a sherry bomb, but I think, as you say, trying to use sherries in a way where you still have that balance with the distillery DNA, the distillery character, that's not easy. as I say, that's why now Stephanie, she has won for the 5th time Master Blender of the Year at the International Whisky Competition. She really is one of the most award-winning whisky makers in the world. Not only has Stephanie won awards, but in fact this range as well, across the San Francisco Spirits Competition, the International Whisky Competition, the World Whisky Awards. We have won category trophies, double golds across the range, and a couple of years ago now, our 21 won Best Highland Single Malt Whisky in the World at the World Whisky Awards, right? So some real crowd pleasers and whisky geek pleasers here, I think, within our new range.
Yeah, so that is really interesting. That leads me really to my next question. So what is the future of the brand? What are you doing with that? You mentioned like, we could expand that. I think there's abandoned warehouses, and you have. I think you have the stock. That is a beautiful position. So, are there any intentions to go in any directions?
Never say never. That's what I say. We really are at absolute capacity for the distillery at the moment. Obviously, a lot of our whiskies we've discussed going around the distillery, we still are quite heavily used in blends. My team, of course, would love to see more and more of that coming into being bottled as single malts. As well as our core range, which we're tasting today, the 12, 18, 21. Within our company, we do something called exceptional casks. So for us, exceptional casks kind of fall under 3 kind of territories. We have single casks, which literally means for us, it's a single cask, no finishing, however it comes out, cask strength into the bottle, done, right? Fantastic whiskey. We also do what we call a double cask, which really is a single cask, one cask worth of whiskey that we then take and we transfer either to a secondary cask for a significant period of time, or also we put it just into a finishing cask for several months. So we call that a double cask. Again, there's no official terminology agreed yet in the industry, but for us it's taking a single cask worth of liquid and transferring, as I say, to a secondary cask for a period of time. And we finally have what we call small batch, where it'll be maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 different casks combined together. So you're looking at, instead of being a few hundred bottles, with a single cask, you maybe got closer to 1,000 bottles or just over within a small batch. But all kind of 3 examples there under the exceptional cask name are casks, when our malt master Stephanie and the team that work with her of blenders, when they're kind of going through nosing and analysing casks, sometimes they spot something that's just a little bit different. They think they want to celebrate it rather than kind of lose it in with the, the sort of combination of casks to make the core range. So I really think our exceptional cask range is celebrating different facets, different sides of that beautiful Royal Brackla character. So we have seen, a number of different single casks where it could just be just a single sherry cask, a bit more of a sherry bomb. It could just be just a refill bourbon cask for its full life. We are doing limited editions now, so every year we are planning to release some limited editions. So we have seen, I think it was a Fino and a Amontillado, 15-year-old coming out with Royal Brackla as well. So watch this space. As I say, the core range is there to stay, as I say, with the 12, 18, 21, but we are adding some limited editions every year, kind of usually at sort of 15 years old, and we will have a lovely range of exceptional casks coming out from Royal Brackla every year as well.
That sounds good. Experimenting is always nice, and especially if you have someone who knows what he's doing.
Which we definitely do with Stephanie.
Okay, so the last one is 21-year-old. I think the choice of age is very, very nice because we've done a little bit of a questionnaire with our customers. We analyzed the shop data, and we found out that people enjoy their whiskeys most with 18 to 21. So this is we've seen that is the sweet spot where the people think, that is a really good Scotch.
I mean, although I'll say my personal favourite, just for its interestingness and character, is the 18. By far the big crowd pleaser, the big award winner is the 21. And I think this is itself a masterclass in sherry in one glass. Because for this, we're not just maturing in one sherry cask or finishing in one sherry cask. We are finishing across 3 different kinds of sherry casks and combining together. So it's an incredibly complicated whiskey to make. I'm sure the warehousing team are not a big fan of Stephanie for putting this together. It's a lot of extra work for them, a lot of moving of casks and combining of casks. But again, just like we've seen with the 12, the 18, the 21, that initial maturation, we're focusing on the refill bourbon casks there. And then we're aging up to say 21 years in the refill bourbon casks, and then we're introducing the finishing casks for about 6 months. So majority will be in first fill Oloroso for that time, so the largest proportion. Another smaller proportion is aged separately for finishing in the Palo Cortado cask, like we saw in the 18, and then the smallest amount is finished separately in PX, Pedro Jimenez cask. Now, I know there's a big smile, a big nod there, right?
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of big fans of PX casks. It can be that really heavy, that really dominant sherry cask. So that's why the smallest amount for creating balance is finished in the PX cask. But I think when you take it to the nose,
as you said, the smallest portion.
The smallest portion, but it's still there, right?
It has a bit of an influence there. It feels a little bit like the 12-year-old older brother.
Yes.
But I think you can get in a lot deeper into that glass.
100%. But I think it's really nice now, as you know, and anyone who's watching this video on YouTube, I would encourage you, if you can get the 12 and 18 and 21 together, I think it's the most interesting way to do a tasting like this, because by the time you get to the 21, it reminds you, you can see that influence that we've seen in the 12. You can see that Oloroso and what it brings to the Royal Brackla
also
character.
A little bit of that Palo Cortado. I'm not quite sure if that is the distillery character of the Palo Cortado. I don't know.
For me, it's got that zestiness and again, that bit of sort of an earthy funk to it as well. So you can see that Oloroso, the lovely rich dried fruits, that lovely warming cinnamon spice. You can see that slight peppery spice, that lovely kind of top line citrus note, that earthiness of the 18. But I think what I'm really greeted with here is that lovely, deep richness you expect with the PX. It's dessert-like, isn't it?
It's a nice combination, yeah. I think she really went for balance, and that is definitely what you feel in that glass. You have a bit of everything, and you have it not so strong that you can feel it from all sides.
I mean, that takes real skill. This is not an easy whiskey to put together. And getting that balance of all three casks, and still though the Royal Brackla Distillery character, right? We still have that. We've not lost that lovely freshness, that summer breeze in a glass, that clean acidity in the whiskey. I
mean, it's a bit less strong. It's still there.
Yeah, I mean the PX is such a big bold flavor, right?
Oh, I think the Oloroso is a bit, I would say, a little bit dominant in the nose, in the taste you have. Oh, that has a lot of complexity.
Yeah,
that is something you have to take apart for if you could take it apart for hours probably if you're really into it and you're geeky and malty out there. Oh yeah, that is nice. 21 is just also that is kind of my age. That is kind of my age for a whiskey.
I think for anyone who would describe themselves as a fan of sherried whiskey, this is an absolute must try, right? Delicious. Well, cheers. It's been great to have you here. Slanje, prost.
Thank you very much for having us here. Yeah,
pleasure.
It was a lovely day. It was a bit windy and a bit cold, but that's.
There is no bad weather in Scotland, just the wrong clothes. So I'm glad we both had our jackets today. Much needed. Cheers.
That was nice. Cheers. Yeah. So, also, thank you very much for watching. If you found this video interesting, then please feel free to share it with your friends. And if you'd like to buy one of these or all three of these bottles, go to whisky.de or whisky.com and you will find them in our shop. Plus maybe a few exceptional casks, bottlings from exceptional casks. And yeah, thank you very much for watching and see you next time.